or having the House vote on the Senate package. Do you believe there will be a huge First of all, tell me what you think of the health care package as it stands. And second, do you believe that the backlash would be large enough to forge a midterm election that would turn the House and Senate to the Republican side?
Well, first of all, on the package itself is misguided. Number one, even if it was the greatest idea in the world, we can't afford it. Number two, the solution to our health insurance problem in America is not to have the federal government open up an insurance company. The solution lies in empowering the consumer. In essence, we have it backwards right now. Most people get their insurance. You go work somewhere, your employer tells you, here's our insurance plan, this is our company. That company then takes you and hundreds of thousands of other lives. They package you together and they market you to hospitals and doctors and say, look, we'll send you these patients if you agree to charge us less. And that's how healthcare in America is divided. There's no value in that. And it's not like when you go buy a car, you weigh the price with the quality. In healthcare, you're just sold like, basically your lives are sold like a livestock by insurance companies are offering that. We need to reverse that. The consumer has to be empowered. Imagine now a system where your job gives you $600 or $700 a month and tells you, go and take this money tax-free. You can only use it for healthcare, and go and buy a health insurance plan, and here's your choice of 60, 70, 50, 40 companies. Now these companies have to compete for your business, and they're going to compete on the basis of price, but they're also going to compete on the basis of quality. You know, who offers which doctors, which ones has value-added services. And that competition will breed an increase in the value of health insurance. We need to get back to a model of health insurance in this country that empowers the consumer to use their money in pursuit of how to buy health insurance. And that's the direction I wish we could go. There are things the federal government can do in the tax code to incentivize that. But I think the direction we're going now is misguided, will ultimately result in a single-payer system, and could potentially contribute to bankrupting this country.
It could bankrupt the country, there's any doubt. Final question for you. Everybody's been so great and quiet. They're enjoying listening to you. Tax reform. Right now, we're going to raise the highest tax rate to 40%. JFK came in, cut tax rates.
Yes.
A Democrat. Reagan came in, cut tax rates, increased the amount of money in dollars to the federal government. Do you believe that if we go forward with continuing to spend too much money, that the idea of being able to cut taxes in the future will be a lost one? Yeah,
in fact, I think that might even be the plan in some circles, that if you grow the government large enough, you will then, your creditors around the world, those who buy the debt here in America, our American debt, will turn to us and say, we're not going to buy your debt unless we see you're committed to raising revenue and paying off debt. At that point, they're going to turn to the American people and say, look, we have no choice. We must raise taxes. Otherwise, you know, our creditors around the world are insisting upon it. I think that in some circles is the design, and I think it's not the direction most Americans want to go. There's two things that are important in taxes for economic activity. The first is certainty. If you're going to go into business, you want to make sure that the rules aren't going to change every 6, 9, or 12 months. People need to be able to project outwards and understand what the consequences of certain actions and reactions are going to be. And right now, all kinds of uncertainty exists in our tax code, with many of them set to expire in a year. Many have already expired, and the looming debt leads everyone to believe that higher rates are an inevitability, particularly if this administration continues. And then the second is the rate itself. There was something I read recently in the Wall Street Journal, which I think is a great line. It said, a country cannot have its entrepreneurs and eat them too. And that's true here. You can't tell people, you can't on the one hand want people to go out and make money and create jobs and grow in business, and on the other hand tell them that the consequence of that is graduate into a higher, almost confiscatory tax rate. That's the message coming out of Washington. That's why we're having a jobless recovery right now.
Marco, thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for coming. We appreciate it. Steve and everybody, thank you. Could you touch on education, the idea that...
Yeah, you know, education is really, in my mind, a state function more than a federal one. I think the federal government complicates it. I actually look at this Race to the Top. I don't know how many of you are aware of that. That's a program that the president started to make money available to states who then have to go out and compete for that money by showing innovation. I think I'm not a problem. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's a good idea. But by and large, I think that education is a state function, best regulated and governed at the state level. I know, for example, No Child Left Behind was a well-intentioned piece of legislation. It's had some unintended consequences. So I really believe that the federal government should do as little as possible on the education front and empower the states, that's really a state function. Well, Cuba's the only tyranny basically left in the Western Hemisphere. I mean, certainly Hugo Chavez is insane, and you know, there are other people that are weird, but in the hemisphere. But the only non-democratically elected leader are those in Cuba, and they're illegitimate leaders about that. And so I would hope they would join the rest of Latin America in having a democratic society. They may choose a different economic model than we do, and that's their right. And my hope is that that is what the future of Cuba in the near future. And I have great hope that that's the direction they will go, that in essence Cuba will open up to the world and become, just like all these other nations in Latin America that have elections, that have a voice in who their leaders are, etc. I don't know how anyone could lose an election by being for the rule of law, which is what I am. I think legal immigration is one of the most important things that's ever happened in America. I would, without knowing every single person in this room, there's probably only a couple of you, if any, that can track your heritage back to the Mayflower, and everybody else was probably at some point in the last 2 or 3 generations are here because someone couldn't be who they were meant to be in their own country, and so they came to America. And I think legal immigration is a great thing. And our legal immigration system is broken. It's inefficient. It's bureaucratic, and it needs to be fixed. The American people aren't going to trust the federal government to fix it, however, until they believe that the illegal immigration problem has been brought under control. And that is a multifaceted issue. People talk about the border, and that's a real problem. But our visa overstays is a real problem, too. You get varying degrees. Some people say a third, up to maybe 40% of those who are in this country illegally entered the country legally and overstayed their visas. So I do think you have to show that you're serious about enforcing the existing law before the American people will have the confidence necessary in the federal government